You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry, ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is my review for The Strangers, Chapter 1. Now, before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. The Strangers Chapter 1 is the latest in the Strangers universe. After their car breaks down in a remote, tiny town, a young couple is forced to spend the night in a remote cabin. Panic ensues as they are terrorized by three masked strangers who strike with no mercy and seemingly no motive. The film stars Madeline Page and Froy Gutierrez and is directed by Rennie Hamlin. So I love The Strangers. I think that first film is top-notch home invasion. I love the ending of that movie. It's obviously become so iconic. But I think everything about it, the masks, the setting, the acting, it's all very good and makes for a really haunting home invasion slasher film. And then we got The Strangers Prey at Night, which looked cool. I actually really loved the setting and the neon look to everything. They found new ways to incorporate them. However, it did kind of just feel like a neon lit generic slasher. So when I heard we were getting another Strangers film, I was pretty skeptical. And for good reason. I think The Strangers Chapter 1 is literally just a rinse and repeat of the original The Strangers, just not as good in literally any way. So let's go ahead and start off with the positives. So the biggest positive is basically that it does a good enough job at setting up the home invasion style tension, the camera angles. I actually really enjoyed the camera work for the most part. There were times where I was like, "Ooh, we're trying too hard," or "This looks ridiculous." But for the most part, I actually liked the way they framed people, specifically here. It played on some old classic kind of jump scare slasher tropes, but did it in somewhat of a unique way. I also think the setting was really cool. Another Airbnb horror story. Meanwhile, I'm still staying at the Airbnbs left and right, so I haven't learned my lesson. And then the sound design, the use of music and sound, I think was really solid here as well. Unfortunately, that is where my positives end. And then honestly, I don't know that I have a lot to say about this in general, but what I do have to say is mostly negative. So let's kick off the negatives with The Strangers Chapter 1. Well, my biggest negative is that it is just the first Strangers. It is very, very similar. In some points, it feels pretty beat by beat. Yeah, we have a different setting. Yeah, we do some stuff differently. However, the overall story beats are pretty much identical. And as I said in my opening, it just doesn't do anything as good as the original. Our couple is not nearly as engaging. The acting for our two leads is nowhere near the acting in that first one. They don't utilize the home invasion aspect as well. We see that they kind of recycle that iconic "you were home" line, and they say it differently here, but also it's not nearly as effective. It doesn't hit like that first one hits. So it leaves you wondering, why am I watching The Strangers Chapter 1 when I could be watching a much better film in The Strangers? Oh, and I have to say it, our lead characters were not great, particularly our female lead. Wow. I have not seen a female lead this bad in a horror film in a while, it feels like. I have to just come out and say it. She was useless. Like an absolutely useless character. That's fine if you're an expendable, friend who's gonna get killed. But when your entire slasher depends on two people, you don't have a bunch of killer fodder, expendable characters to kill throughout. Oh my gosh, to have one character who just is so useless and annoying, it drove me nuts. And trust me, the boyfriend's not all that much better. He's just a little bit more generally likable and proactive in the film. But wow, talk about zero survival instinct. These two, this couple here, were begging, just begging, kill me, making ridiculous or dumb decision after ridiculous and dumb decision. And when they weren't doing outright weird or dumb things, they did nothing. They just were there and waiting to get killed. No sense of fight, no sense of survival, nothing here. And the acting, yeah, well, not the best I've seen either. Sorry about it. In addition to the acting, the screenplay is god awful. From the bare bones of it, of just what the characters are supposed to do, the setting, all this and that, the dialogue, everything about the screenwriting is just a mess. I also didn't love the ending. I'll say that I didn't love the ending. There is a mid-credit sequence, interesting, but also not fully in the love category. Honestly, if you're into slashers, maybe check this out. If you liked the other Strangers films, wait for streaming. And honestly, my biggest recommendation is to just skip this one altogether and go watch The Strangers. It executes this exact same premise in a nearly identical fashion overall in a much more effective way. Man, that girl here, she really threw me for a loop. I'm not gonna lie about it. Terrible. Otherwise, if you're not a big slasher person, if you didn't like the first two Strangers films, just skip this altogether. It's just going to make you dislike them even more. If you think the slasher genre is played out, if horror is played out for you at this point, just skip it. This will just kind of add to the case, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm big disappointed with The Strangers Chapter 1. So that was my review for The Strangers Chapter 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see The Strangers Chapter 1? Or have you checked it out as well? Let me know all of your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.